The cargo bay of the Viridian Dawn shuddered as the emergency lights cast everything in crimson. Commander Threx's four eyes widened in horror as the creature emerged from the shattered containment pod. A Krillian render, apex predator of the Death World Krill 7, all 8 feet of armored fury and serrated claws. Seal the bulkheads! Threx shrieked into his communicator, his translator struggling to keep pace with his panic. Get everyone out of Sector 9! But it was too late. The render had already spotted its prey. Corporal Jace Wren stood at the far end of the cargo bay, checking inventory on a data pad. The human looked up slowly, his eyes meeting the creature's 6 burning orbs. Most species would have frozen in primal terror. Most species would have died screaming. Jace simply sighed and set down his data pad. Of course, the human muttered. 5 minutes before my shift ends. Threx watched from the observation deck above, his chitinous hands pressed against the reinforced glass. 3 other crew members, a Valorian, a Seth, and another of Threx's own kind, stood frozen beside him. They had all heard stories about Krillian renders. Every spacefaring civilization knew the tales. A single render had once torn through an entire Morthak battlecruiser, killing 47 trained warriors before being blown into space, and now one stood between a lone human and the exit. Ren. Threx activated the bay's intercom. Stay calm. We're sending security drones. No time, Commander. Jace interrupted, his voice eerily steady. He rolled his shoulders, a distinctly human gesture Threx had never understood. This thing looks hungry. The render lunged. What happened next would haunt Threx's dreams for cycles to come. Jace didn't run. He didn't even flinch. As 300 kilograms of armored death hurtled toward him, the human simply stepped aside. Not quickly, not frantically, but with the casual precision of someone avoiding a puddle on a sidewalk. The render's claws carved through the space where Jace's torso had been milliseconds before. The creature's momentum carried it into a stack of cargo containers. Metal shrieked. The render recovered instantly, its serpentine neck whipping around, mandibles spreading wide enough to swallow a Valorian whole. Jace was already moving. He dove beneath the creature's guard, and Threx heard something that made his blood run cold. The human was laughing. Not the nervous titter of prey, but the deep, genuine laugh of someone enjoying themselves. Come on then, Jace shouted. Let's dance. The render's tail, tipped with a bone spike that could penetrate ship armor, whistled through the air. Jace caught it. Actually caught it, his bare hands wrapping around the chitinous appendage. The crew members beside Threx gasped in unison. Impossible, the Seth engineer whispered. No organic being has that grip strength without... The human twisted. The sound of the render's tail joint snapping echoed through the cargo bay like a gunshot. The creature's roar of pain was inhuman, a frequency that made Threx's translator screech and fail. The render spun, trying to impale Jace with its primary claws, but the human had already released the broken tail and rolled forward. Jace came up inside the creature's guard, and his fist, his bare fist, hammered into the soft spot beneath the render's jaw. Once. Twice. 3 times. Each impact sounded like a hammer striking meat. Black ichor sprayed across the cargo bay floor. The render staggered backward, confused. In its entire evolutionary history, nothing had ever hurt it like this. Nothing had ever fought back with such ferocity. Jace pressed his advantage. He grabbed one of the creature's middle legs and pulled. The Valorian crew member beside Threx made a sound of distress as the leg tore free with a wet crack. The human used the severed limb as a club, battering the render's armored head, driving it backward toward the bay's emergency airlock. This isn't possible, Threx breathed. Humans aren't. They're not even classified as a warrior species. They're diplomats, engineers, scientists. They're from a death world, the Valorian said quietly, her feathers pressed flat against her skull in instinctive fear. We forgot what that means. The render made one final desperate attempt at survival. It lunged forward, mandibles wide, intending to bite the human in half. Jace dropped the severed leg and caught the creature's mandibles in his hands, one hand on each side of that massive maw. For a moment, the tableau held, human and apex predator locked in a test of pure strength. Then Jace started pulling the mandibles apart. The render thrashed wildly, its remaining legs scrabbling for purchase on the blood-slicked floor. Jace's face contorted with effort, veins standing out on his neck and forearms, but his grip never wavered. The human's muscles, products of a 1G gravity world with deadly weather. Predators and diseases had been forged in an environment that made Krill 7 look gentle by comparison. The render's mandibles separated with a sound like tearing metal. The creature's death shriek was mercifully brief. Jace stepped back, breathing hard, covered in black ichor and his own blood from a dozen minor cuts. The render's corpse collapsed at his feet. The entire fight had lasted less than 2 minutes. Silence filled the observation deck. Jace looked up at the window, spotted Threx, and gave a small wave. "Hey, Commander," he called out, his voice hoarse. "Gonna need a cleanup crew in here. And probably a medical kit. Nothing serious," he added quickly. "Just some scratches. The human called them scratches." Threx managed to activate the intercom with a trembling hand. "Ren, how? Your species isn't—" "Oh, right." Jace had the audacity to look embarrassed. "Sorry about the mess. I know renders are supposed to be dangerous, but I grew up in the Australian outback. Had to fight off a saltwater croc when I was 16. He shrugged as if that explained everything. This guy was bigger, sure, but same basic principle. Stay out of the bite zone, go for the joints, don't let up until it stops moving. The Valorian turned to Threx, her voice shaking. "Commander, we need to update the human species classification immediately. If a lone human can do this to a Krillian render, if this is normal for them—" "It's not," Threx said slowly, watching as Jace calmly retrieved his datapad and resumed checking inventory, stepping over the corpse as if it were merely an inconvenient obstacle. "But I don't think it's extraordinary either. Not for them." Below, Corporal Jace Wren finished his shift inventory count, made a note about the damaged cargo containers, and headed for the showers. He had 5 minutes to clean up before the poker game in the mess hall, and he'd promised not to be late again. Behind him, the greatest apex predator in 3 sectors lay dead, torn apart by bare hands and human stubbornness. And in the observation deck, 4 aliens stood in silence, each privately recalculating everything they thought they knew about the friendly, mild-mannered species called humanity. Threx made a mental note to never, ever visit Earth.